Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hunt Lift Eat podcast, brought to you by Hunt Lift Eat Official. I'm Carter, here with my favorite co-host, the one and only Perry. What's going on, man?
Oh, not much, brother. Good to see you again, and good to see our esteemed guest again tonight. We were just talking; it's been too long. I'm excited to catch up with this guy. I know he's got some exciting some news and stuff to get us up to speed. So stoked for this conversation tonight, man.
Heck yeah. This week we're joined by Jeff Vander Heiden, owner of Buck Fever Seed Company and Big Buck Killer. Well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I guess your son is Big Buck Killer
Yeah,
this season, man, but
yeah.
you've been getting after it, dude. It's been fun. I'm
Yes,
kind of
sir.
watching your journey. So welcome back to the podcast, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to talk to you both and see you both here again.
Yeah. Absolutely. We were just talking before we mashed record. We're like, when was the last time we caught up? And it was episode 77, so it was a long time ago.
Yes. Yep, too long.
With
We've
you and
tried multiple times to make this happen and it just fell through every time, family stuff and whatever it was, but
yeah. For context, for maybe new listeners or new team members or people new to the podcast, Jeff, would you mind giving a quick little rundown on kind of who you are and what Buck Fever does?
sure. Like I said, I'm the owner of Buck Fever Seed Company. Just a small food plot seed company. I really try to key into the guys that need some help. I like assisting people and trying to get the best results possible on their food plots. We all know everybody works hard and everybody's time is important and everything, and so results are the most important thing to me. And I put together quality seed blends and use quality seed products to sell to people for trying to get those best results for everybody, and also pride myself in some really good customer service and trying to help anybody that might have questions. So that's kind of where I would differ myself from any of like your big box stores, seed companies and stuff like that. So really pride myself on the customer service side of it and trying to get everybody the best results possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to pump your tires too much, but I've been a customer now of yours for 2 years. My last 2 seasons, I've used your seeds, and the plots have been phenomenal. But two, you and the other Jeff Nagel, your
Yep.
buddy, has kind of taught me how to wade into this world of do-it-yourself food plots on a micro scale, right? I don't have any major farms or anything huge like
Sure.
that you see on TV, but small enough plots where y'all both have been extremely receptive and responsive to all my, infantile questions about food plots and trying to get
That
into it. And
Well, that's just the thing. It can be overwhelming for people that try to get into it. Just right out of the gate. I mean, there's just so many different things. Soil type, weather conditions, placement of the plot. What you're trying to plant, what you're trying to key in on, or what time of the season. I mean, there's just so many different things involved, so it can be very overwhelming for people. That's what we like to kind of talk people through what your end goal is, and try to get people geared down the right road instead of a lot of fails, right out of the gate. So that is definitely part of it.
for sure. And just understanding, like, because you've been like, all right, what equipment do you have, right? And the
Yes.
answer is not a ton, right? And you're like, that's all right. We can work with that.
Yep.
You don't have to have the big giant tractor with the big giant set of cutting discs and the cultipacker and the fertilizer and sprayers and boom
Yeah.
sprayers and everything else that comes with the big operations. You can have successful plots, and I can personally attest to this. I've killed couple really nice bucks off my plot, off your seed on my plots here last 2 seasons. They've been holding those deer, especially right now, right in these later,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
later weeks of the season. And you can do it with not a lot of equipment.
Correct. Yeah, that's the best part. I mean, there's multiple ways to get it done, and so yeah, that's one of those things. That's why I like to talk through it with people, what you do have available, and we can find something to fit. What you're doing. So Yeah.
We're kind of at an interesting point in the season, and I want to talk about your season so far, kind of how your plots are doing and what's doing the best and what's crushing it, and you got some new stuff out that I haven't used yet, but also as the seasons are kind of winding down already, we should be thinking about what is spring going to be looking like too, right? And I want to talk about that too, because
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
yeah,
I mean, it's coming fast enough already. I mean, we're going to be here to Christmas before you know it. But yeah, I mean, people are already, depends on what part of the country you're in, but I mean, people are already thinking about, what quote unquote the frost seeding of clover and stuff like that going on in the Midwest and stuff. It can start as early as the end of March, so that'll be here before we all know it. In the South, some of that even earlier. So just kind of depends on where you're located. But yeah, it will be happening soon enough for sure.
yeah. And selfishly, Perry and I are on a lease together on his family's farm in southwestern Virginia, and we're gonna want your advice on what we need to start thinking about planting this spring up there, and then
Yeah,
this coming
that
fall.
sounds great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We can definitely work on a plan.
we like a plan.
That
Yeah.
we do.
Well, cool, man. How's your season been so far, Jeff, from a hunting perspective and then from a food plot perspective?
Well, I tell you what, as we all know, everybody rides a roller coaster, right? But the roller coaster of a season it has been for me. We started being from Iowa. We have been in a drought and continue to be in a drought here. But fortunately enough, I did work very hard on getting seed in the ground and capitalized on a couple little rains that we have. I don't know if you're following parts of the Midwest, but we're still in what we would call like a severe drought in most parts of where we're at, like in our part of Iowa. There's no subsoil moisture at all. I mean, I got ponds that are 6 to 8 feet low right now. And I know some of my guys in Nebraska and stuff have got ponds that are completely dried up at this point. Even I mean, we're just that short on long-term moisture. But I was fortunate enough to catch a couple rains and got seed in the ground and fertilizer and poured the fertilizer to it and whatever, knowing that we didn't have moisture. And I got lucky enough, and I have a pile of food this year. So I'm really hoping that it pays off for me. I mean, it has paid off, I guess. That'll be part of my story here with the way my season went. But right out of the gate, going into youth season, which started the third weekend in September, here, I got my son out, and on our first sit out over our blueprint plot, which is our Nebraska mix, he shot the biggest buck on the farm. So we had our number one target buck came in with about 10 minutes of legal left and put his head down and fed at 50 yards. And Henry was able to make a perfect shot on him, and the deer actually just barely made it off the plot. And it was a great hunt. I don't know if anybody's been able to check it out on Wildest Dreams TV or not, but it's posted up there. If anybody on the YouTube channel, if anybody gets a chance to watch it, we appreciate it. But it was just a super fun evening. It's hard to put into words. I get just as much excitement out of something like that than I do with killing one myself at this point. So for anybody that has family, friends, or kids involved, you can probably understand the feeling of that. But I don't know who was more excited, me or him. But it was good. It was just a fantastic night. I don't know. We had we had plenty of deer out in the field, and just worked out to where he came. I mean, we knew there was a chance it could happen. I had him on camera pretty regular coming to the food plot. So just goes, that's right there out of the gate. Just goes to show you that, your preparation and all your hard work that you put in the summertime, it, really truly does pay off. I mean, that's just it. We've had the opportunity almost, the last probably 3 seasons where I've really focused on trying to put green food source in, and almost every year we've had the opportunity. This is just the first. Well, last year he killed his first buck, and then this year he killed undoubtedly the biggest buck on the farm. So,
I think
yeah, yeah,
That's a nice deer, man.
we had named Stranger. We had 2 years of history, and we did put a tape on him. He ended up going 167 and 7/8 is what we rough scored him at. So pretty
Nice.
good for a 9-year-old boy, I'd say.
I'd say
Yeah,
that's awesome, Jeff. Yeah, man, that's
So
that's that's
that
so
was
cool.
great. And then my season after that, of course, then I switched gears, tried to pick up a second shooter on the farm. And I did end up having a couple good bucks show up on the farm that I was chasing. And I did have the opportunity in October. Um, and I missed one. So it's my own fault. I shot with my bow. I shot right underneath one. And it was just my own fault. It was a little longer shot than I normally like to take. But the circumstances were right, and I just missed. I don't have any excuses for it other than I missed him. So I shot right under him, and so I can't, I don't know how you can't complain about it, right? I had the opportunity to shoot one, and then I continued chasing a couple of my targets, and I had a lot of encounters this year with deer. Just had a hard time getting them into bow range. I mean, that's just part of it. So I don't. My effective range or whatever, I like to stay under 50 yards if I can, and even closer if, the better for me. But I don't like shoot, that far if I don't have to. So, anyway, so yeah, just getting a good setup. And then, the challenge is, I don't know if anybody, films or anything like that, but I self film pretty much all the time. I mean, on occasion, I might have a camera guy with me, but not very often. Most of the time, I'm self-filming. And if any of you have done that before, you'll understand that that whole moment gets really hectic when you're trying to film and execute a shot and, make judgments on deer and, all those things go into it. So I had another encounter with one that I probably now is on my list of shooters that I should have shot, and I decided I didn't do it because it was kind of a hectic situation. So it's just one of those things. I don't know. It's one of those. So we're gonna see. I have high hopes. So right now here in Iowa, we are in the shotgun season. It's the second season shotgun. And so my archery season is closed right now during the shotgun seasons. And we have to get through this coming weekend, this Sunday, and then shotgun's done. And then our late season muzzleloader and archery opens back up again. So I'm anxious to get back after them. This past weekend, I guess actually it'd be 2 weeks ago during the first season, shotgun, Henry had a doe tag yet, and so we went out and filled a doe tag. He shot a doe off the property with a 350 Legend, so that was fun. So we got that out of the way too. So right now he's up 2 deer to my none. But it's been a good season. So I can't complain. I've had opportunities that I've seen my target bucks multiple times. I feel like I'm doing pretty good in that aspect. I just haven't been able to close the deal yet. So I don't know how it goes for you guys, but I mean, if you'll probably know when you start hunting certain deer versus just hunting a deer, then the challenge obviously goes up drastically at that point. So,
Oh yeah.
And that's where I'm at. I'm trying to close the chapter on deer that we have some sort of history with or something that, makes a story instead of just shooting any random, buck at this point. So that's kind of the fun for me.
Yeah, I
Jeff,
feel that.
Jeff, I want to go back to the start of the season, if that's okay, and
Yeah.
and your son's success on that buck, on Stranger. So you talked about the drought there in Iowa, and that's something that we've had this year as well here in the South. A lot of the South was in a drought there at the
Yep.
end of the summer and going into the fall and early season. So just if you would real quick, it seems like for us it's not uncommon that it seems like every August it turns off hot and dry, and
Yeah.
early September, about the time that we're all really gearing up for those early season warm season food plots, here in the South, unless you get lucky with some hurricanes that come in, or like you say, you can time those
Right.
specific and sporadic precipitation events. Just what is your strategy for approaching those early season, warm season plots,
Yeah.
anticipating drought conditions?
Right. So this is just, and I'll probably have people that would argue this with me, but in my experience and what I have tried to do, and have other guys that work with try to do different timed plannings. I don't know, people that follow Facebook or social media or whatever, you see a lot of people talking about not planting your brassica plots until, I mean, some people even talk about not planting them till like the end of August, in different places or things like that. I have started to plant on the earlier side. I even plant like, I started in mid July this year putting my brassica plots in the ground. And I got lucky and caught some rains in July. And once the plants, now this might not work everywhere because it just depends on, but if you're in an area like, let's say here in Iowa, where we get hot and humid, still we have a lot of humidity or very dewy mornings. I don't know, like you in the South, if you have a lot of dewy mornings where there's a heavy dew, if you can get the plants up to where they have a sizable leaf or a decent sized leaf where they collect water, I think the dew keeps those plants going even if you have dry, because we had plenty of hot and dry this year. I mean, we had 110-degree, heat index days, or whatever. I mean, we had that for weeks straight, and we had zero moisture for like 30 days in a row or whatever. And the dew, I think, keeps them going. You have to get the plants to like a sizable leaf, though. That's like the key. So if you don't have rain, I mean, frankly, if you don't have any rain to get the plants out of the ground, there's no help for that, right? But if you can get them out of the ground on a rain that gets them up far enough to where they start putting on a leaf, I feel like the dew and stuff keeps them going. And then a lot of guys will, um, say, well, you planted them too early. Now they're going to mature before the season starts. Well, what I've found in my experience is that even if you plant them early and then we do hit that dry spell, I feel like it slows the growth down to where they still don't mature out early enough. Does that make sense to people? Like it kind
Yeah.
of stunts the growth, right? It's not, if, yes, if we did get rain, like weekly rains, or we had a really wet year or something, yes, you might get some that might actually, go to seed before you get to the season or something like that. But that's kind of the risk you take. But, looking at the forecast, knowing that it does get dry for a period of time, I've been safe with it now doing it that way for the last couple of years, and it's paid off to where I'll at least have one or two plots that do really well if I start planting early versus the ones that I wait on and don't plant, and then I don't catch any rain and get them out of the ground real late. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
know. And this all, of course, is just based on what your weather conditions and what happens. So there's probably lots of variances to that. But that's how I have combated like not getting skunked on food plots, is trying to get the seed in the ground earlier than later. And I have had to go back and reseed stuff before. If you just go too long, with no moisture on the ground, unfortunately, there's just not much you can do about it. So,
Is your full potential something that could be used to combat a situation like a drought?
yeah, so it definitely helps with your plants retaining moisture, and helps strengthen your roots to pick up more moisture. I wouldn't say it makes them drought resistant, by any means. You still have to have some sort of moisture, but it does help with that. I mean, that it unlocks your soil, and basically allows your plants' roots to strengthen and help uptake moisture and nutrients better. That's what that is designed for. So, yes, treating it with that is definitely helpful. That along with fertilizer is a great combination to help Like the brassica plots, obviously you want to make sure they get plenty of nitrogen on it. So, I like to use like a slow release nitrogen, a stabilized, urea or something like that, and help try to get those up as quick as possible. So, fertilizing at planting is a great way to do it. So, a lot of times I'll tell people to put like a starter fertilizer down, like a triple 19 or a triple 13 or whatever you might have available in your neighborhood. And then I a lot of times will go with that stabilized urea and do like half and half. So like half triple 19 and half stabilized urea at planting. That way, if you're catching that rain, the plants jump out of the ground quick. And then if you do continue to get rain, or whatever, you can go back and top it off with some more urea at some point to really get like your brassicas and stuff out of the ground. And your other plots, if you're not doing brassicas, clover or something like that, you want to do something that like a 6-24-24 or something like that, and try to get that on and help put on as much tonnage you can before you go into the season. That way, the deer aren't mowing it to the ground so fast.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and you got my wheels spinning. As Carter alluded to for our property. I mean, we have similar situations a lot of times here in the South, or at least like this lease that Carter mentioned is up in the mountains. So it's in the southern region, but it's a little higher elevation, and there's almost always a good dew in the mornings.
Yep.
And so like I remember one year specifically, a couple years ago, or a few years ago actually, Luke and I, we did what we felt like was a pretty good job of prepping everything prior to planting the food plot. And we went ahead and we planted our seed, and then it just turned off one of these dry August, September spells, and just got really poor germination, and the plot just never really had a chance to get going at all. And I'm wondering, if we did like what you're saying, got those seedlings established a little bit earlier, got those leaves developed to where they could capture a lot of that consistent morning dew.
Yep.
To sustain that moisture, might have had better luck there.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. I mean, the brassica leaves get big enough where they can collect quite a bit of that dew. I mean, you see it on your yard, even in the grass and stuff. If it's dewy and your shoes are getting wet, I mean, the brassica leaves are collecting even that much more. So it's like I said, I feel like it's definitely enough to keep them going, or it has been in my experience. So that's what in my area, I've been trying to push people to do that if we're worried that we're going to have a similar a drought situation like we have been, to try to. But timing of a rain is the key. If you have any chance of rain, in that window of time when you think you should be planting, then you definitely need to be planting at that at that time period if you can do it. There's enough rain to knock the dust down, and it maybe is enough to germinate your plants, and then that's it. Like it still needs to be a decent enough rain to hold a little moisture for just a little bit, because sometimes the really young plants, if they just got enough moisture to crack the seed open basically and germinate, and then you get into like straight days of 100-degree heat or whatever, unfortunately you're probably going to burn, your plants will probably burn up, and that's probably a situation where you might have to go back in and replant, or fall back on something like punch list or something like that, and put some cereal grains in with it or something to try to salvage some kind of plot at that point.
Perry, did you get a chance to watch that video?
I did not, man. Today was kind of hectic, but I did not. But I want to real bad.
You're the one of you and your son hunting, Jeff, your blueprint plot. I mean, they were almost chest deep in those brassicas.
Yeah. It turned out, like I said, I poured a lot of work. I actually stayed, and my son was part of this. I think I commented in the interview and the video and said, he puts in as much work as I do, but we were literally out there. We had that chance of rain in the forecast. We saw it coming. There was a really good chance in our area, and we stayed out of the property, him and I, until like 11 o'clock at night, running with our little tractor with the lights on, trying to get, and I just have a little teeny like subcompact tractor, and we stayed out there and got a bunch of plots knocked out till like 11 o'clock at night trying to get seed in the ground. And the funny thing is you can probably see it in the video, but I actually missed a spot of my plot seeding in the dark because I couldn't see where I was going. I was trying to do it by the headlights of the tractor and whatever, and I missed a spot. So it was like a triangle right off the side window of my blind that has like got 0 seed in it instead of the rest of it. It's kind of funny. I was like, well, I guess we missed that one while we were out there at 11 at night doing it, but it worked. Whatever, it's still good. So yeah,
I didn't notice. So
yeah, now you will.
Yeah. Go back and I find it.
Yeah.
Talk about how awesome it is hunting with your kid.
Man, it's great. I like I said, I get more enjoyment now, I think, out of that than I do as actually, getting one myself. And what I love about it the most is that, he, like I just said, he literally is out there, with me pretty much all summer long, helping with projects around our lease property. I mean, helping with, mowing and, working on the food plots and, moving blinds or doing whatever, doing all the different things that you do, running trail cameras, moving them to different spots, all of that. He's out there with me like 90% of the time. So he puts in just as much work as I do. And I think to me, that's the important part, is that he realizes that our hard work is what made this happen. Like, we wouldn't have shot that deer on opening weekend of youth season without doing all that preparation that we did. I think that's the most important part. And I think he does realize it, which is what makes me happy. So, and that just goes to show you, I mean, not that some guys don't get lucky, but in the hunting world, when you're trying to target specific deer, mature bucks, whatever, that just goes to show you, the work and the preparation is what it takes to make that happen. So.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see. And Perry's been hunting with his son a lot this season. And I took my daughter for the first time this season. She's 3. I didn't take a rifle, but we went out there and we watched some does in the plot and had the best time ever. And I was just living vicariously through you. I'm so amped for that situation one day. And to commend you did a great job. I think you played it really cool the entire time. And I'm sure every alarm in your head was going off when that buck came in.
Yeah.
Straight on. And you had like minutes until it was pitch black. You couldn't get the camera to focus because it was.
No, yes, I know. And I hated that part of it, but yet I think I've had a couple guys tell me that added to the intensity of the story. Like,
I was like,
yeah. So I mean, literally, I mean, the funny thing is we did a closing interview in the blind, and I said, we got like 15 minutes left of legal, and I literally put the GoPro down and I look up and I said, there's a big deer coming, and I didn't know what it was, and it's hard to see from my tower blind, but there's a bowl, like a CRP bowl that they go down into before they kind of come up into the plot. And I saw him going down the hill into that bowl, or a big deer. And then we didn't see him for a couple of seconds. I tried to get ready to see what it was. And Henry actually said before me, as soon as his head popped up, he goes, "That's Stranger." And he come right into the plot, and then of course, like you said, he turned and was like eating, facing straight at the blind, and I'm trying to get focused. I grab him for a minute, and then it's trying to, so yeah, it was all down to the wire. I'm checking my phone, seeing how much legal we got left, and I'm trying to get the camera to focus, and then Henry's on him, and I'm making sure that he's ready to go. And it's just, I wish it wasn't. So in the blind is even darker yet, right? Yeah. Which makes it tough. I wish we would have had like second angle be able to pick that up better, because the chaos inside the blind is always just incredible. The doe hunt that we just did was kind of a similar situation. It happened really fast, and I opened the window in front of me. I had to move his whole tripod into my window, and then get the gun ready and have him get on the gun and then try to get her on the camera and everything. And I did get that one on second angle, and you can see all the chaos going in the blind. So it's fun. I mean, for guys that do it, I love the filming part of it, because now we always have that to look back on. But yeah, it does definitely add another degree of difficulty. So the part on that hunt, the only part that I regret is, and I say it if you've watched the hunt, you'll see it, and if not, but what happened when he shot, we knew he hit the deer, and I bent down and grabbed my binoculars, and then I made sure the camera was on the deer. And when I picked the binoculars back up, I looked out there and I seen a deer running straight out the end of of my food plot. Well, I have the blueprint, some standing beans, and some more green out there. It's a pretty good sized plot. And I seen a deer running straight out the end of the plot, and I thought that was Stranger. And what I didn't see when I had been over to try to check the camera and grab my binoculars, and Henry did see, is that Stranger actually took a hard left and tipped over right off the plot. And he saw it, and I did not. And so I thought that his deer was walking out the end of the plot, and so he started going crazy in the blind, and I told him not to. You can hear him start freaking out, and then I said, no, just wait, because I thought his deer was standing there. And kudos to him, he was more focused than I was at the moment, with everything going on, but he actually knew his deer. So what had happened then is we waited for a little bit. I didn't realize that Stranger had already tipped over and was dead, and so we waited for a little bit. We walked back to the truck, we got recovery lights, whatever, went back up there, and I started walking down to the middle of the bean field, and he kept telling me I was looking in the wrong area. And so, we get down to the end of the beans, and I was like, buddy, we don't find any blood. I said, I know you hit him. We're just going to keep looking or whatever. And he goes, well, we're in the wrong place, Dad. And I'm like, well, I was like, show me where we need to be. And so he did. He's like, well, we got to go over here. And so we walked over I said, well, here's the edge of the field. I was like, where we stepped off, and I mow a path along the food plot. We stepped onto the mowed path and along the edge of the food plot. And I said, where do you go? And he picked his flashlight up and shined it out in the grass, and he goes, he's right there. And I'm like, it was just, it was a great moment. But I wish I would have caught that on camera too, but I didn't, because we were out there looking, not knowing what happened, or I didn't, so, but it was pretty fun. That part of it was good. So yeah, he knew that his deer was dead, and I thought it was a different deer. So it was, just one of those things, but that's all part of like I said, the fun of it when you're trying to film and do all that. So I love it.
And hunting with kids can be chaotic in and of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, that adds a whole element of chaos just there. So I mean, like you said, kudos to him for staying focused in the moment at 9 years old. I mean, that's pretty dang impressive.
Yeah, it's great. He's the first I don't know how your situation's going, but him hunting with a firearm. I've got him shooting a 350 Legend, which, by the way, I think is a great caliber for kids to shoot if that's legal weapon.
You like it?
Yeah, I do. And a lot of people will probably attest to this. It does not leave a monster blood trail, but it's lethal. Like, if they're hit in the right spot, it's a dead deer. You know what I mean? It just doesn't leave a giant hole, so you don't have a monster blood trail. But normally, if you hit them in the right spot, I'd say the deer's dead within 100 yards. So, that's my take on a 350 Legend. I think a lot of guys will probably attest to that. But it's a fantastic caliber for youth to use, because the gun has hardly any recoil compared to like a muzzle loader or a shotgun or a rifle. I don't know, some calibers of rifles are probably, a lot more recoil. We don't have a rifle season in Iowa, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's a great caliber. So he shot it well, like target practicing, we started shooting it three years ago. And anyway, he shot it really well, but I will say try to get him, when the first 2 years ago, the first buck that he shot with it, it took a lot of coaxing or building his confidence in the blind to get him to squeeze off the trigger at an animal. I don't know if you've dealt with that or not, Perry, but just that first trying to get him to shoot at an animal is tough. And once he made that first shot and killed that first deer, now his confidence level has just been fantastic, and I think he's executing his shots even better yet at this point. So
yeah, it's a fine line with kids, and I'm still figuring it all out as I go with my son. I didn't start hunting until I was 12. I killed my first deer when I was 12, and that was just kind of the rule in our family. So, my son hasn't taken a shot at a deer yet. I haven't had him behind the gun on a deer. He's shot at squirrels and so forth. And he's in that kind of stage where he's fairly comfortable handling a gun, but he does feel the pressure of the moment. And I've seen that, even just with squirrels and so forth. And so, I've been trying to take it slow, and he's this year he was with me when I killed a doe. It was actually the first time that he's been with me when I actually pulled the trigger and killed one with him there. He's helped me recover and track a lot of deer, and been there for the processing and so forth. But it's finding that balance of trying to kind of keep pushing them and to build that confidence, but not push them too hard, because you don't want them to get get nervous or get overwhelmed or by the moment and whatnot. So anyway, but it's man, there's nothing like it. It's bringing bringing your kids into it and introducing them and seeing the joy and the excitement that creates. My son, it's funny, my son actually asked me the other day. He said, when I kill my first buck, who do you think is going to be more excited, me or you? I said, oh, buddy, it's not even going to be close. I'm going to be way more as excited as you will be, and you will be. It won't even be close. I'll have you beat.
Yeah, that's 100% the way I was. I mean, I was just excited, crazy excited to shoot. Not only have him shoot a buck of that caliber, but just the fact that that's one of our target bucks. We been watching this deer, knowing that we wanted to try to. He was on our list of deer that we wanted to try to get on, and to have it pay off like that was just I couldn't even be more thankful. I can't wait to get him back from the taxidermist and be able to stare at him some more. But the only downside to shooting one in September in Iowa is that it was like 75 degrees, so I didn't get to see him very long. We took care of him like the next day, and then he went right to the taxidermist. So, that's how it goes. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I had two specific questions from that video, Jeff. I want to know about the gun setup that you had in there, like the sled, and then about your licking branch.
Oh, yeah. So the gun setup that I use, like we just said, it's a 350 Legend. I have it topped with a Vortex scope. It's like a 3x9x40, I think, or something. Just pretty general scope. I'd say we shoot. Henry's confident shooting out and shoots really well out to like 100 yards, and we put that gun in the blind. We have it set on a bog pod, the actual not like a death grip single point holder, but actual like a full bog pod that holds the gun on both ends actually. Yep.
That was cool. And I like that.
Yep. Hopefully as he gets a little bit bigger, I'll be able to get him onto more like the death grip one, or something more like a single point holder, so it'll be a little easier to maneuver around in the blind. But shooting out of that like saddle style or whatever there, he shoots it really well, and I do think that also does assist with taking some of the recoil out of it all. So it's just, there's really hardly any. He just has to get on it put it to his, basically pull it to his shoulder and get on the scope, and then, ease off on the trigger. So it kind of takes all the guesswork, not having to try to balance the end of the gun or whatever. It pivots, on one point still, so he can move it around, but it holds it really nicely in place. So it's been a great setup. That's what's worked well for me. Like I said, I think at his size and whatever, it just works really well that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip for anybody hunting with kids, or our buddy Cole Reed, or anybody else like that who needs a little extra help. I think that's a really good tip right there.
Shots fired, man.
What I did do previously in the past, before this year, he's grown a little bit here this past year, so it's helped. But before that, even I actually took that same bog pod, and then I actually strapped the front of the gun down to the bog pod, like put a strap around it to hold the gun so the barrel doesn't jump at all then when he shoots it, so it's really just pulling it against his shoulder, getting on and executing a shot then. So I do think that worked well. He doesn't necessarily need that now as much, but I do for the guys that have, kids that are getting into it. That's I think something to try if they're having a problem keeping a gun from jumping, or whatever. That's a good way to try it. But it's that setup has worked really well, and I'm super confident with him shooting. Like I said, I mean, out to 100 yards, he's putting shots in the same place that I'm putting the shots. So I would let him shoot anything inside of that range. That gun's probably capable of shooting a little further, but there's really no need. We try to set up. I honestly try to set up the farm to keep everything in archery range. So if I can, so. Just having that gun shooting 100 yards is a benefit. Stranger was right at 50 yards. That's when he shot it. So that it was an easy shot for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then to answer your second part of that question, the scrape tree, I utilize those a bunch. I don't know if you guys do it all, but in my area, or on my particular farm, I won't even say my area, but my particular farm is a lot of open, like hilltops and open areas, and then like timbered draws and stuff. But I plant a lot of my food up on the hills in the open area and pull the deer, out of the bedding or out of their, wooded draws and up to me to the field. So to put a scrape tree, out in the plot is just a great way to try to bring them again into like archery range, that's my main focus most of the time. So putting that scrape tree out there at 25, 30 yards, and trying to get a scrape going there, it's just one of those things. I mean, you'll see a lot of other people in the industry doing the same type of thing, basically creating a mock scrape over one of those scrape trees of some kind. I stick a 4x4 in the ground, just a regular treated 4x4, and then I drill a hole through it at the top. And in my area, I like to use a pin oak branch. That's just they hold their leaves for a long time. So I cut a branch off of like a pin oak, and I've done it with others. I've done it with like a cedar branch and some willows or something like that, and kind of make just a big bushy branch that sticks out of there. And I stick it through the hole and run a couple screws through to hold it in place. And then, I'll start them in August is generally when I start them, and you'll see that they take to them pretty quick. I mean, it's new, a lot of times if it hasn't been there before, it's something new to them. So they a lot of times will check it out. And it honestly, if you can get the does in the early season, like August, to start trying to figure out what it is and start hitting it, the bucks will follow it like immediately. I mean, it's pretty crazy how quick it takes. Like one good doe to hit that thing, and you'll have bucks on it soon. And then once the bucks start hitting it, I think they all start to hit it because of the fact that they're trying to see who's hitting it,
Right.
type thing. So it's worked really well. It's a great place to get inventory.
Yeah.
for us, and we can't, prior to the season, we can't do any sort of baiting or feed or anything. We have to pull it 30 days or whatever it is prior to season. So if you're trying to get pictures, still in that part of the time period, it's a great way to do it. Put it on those scrapes, and then going through the early season, and I find even now, I'm still getting pictures on them. So it's still one of those things where I think it's, once they start using it or they use it for a whole season, they kind of, it's a, communication or their way of just kind of seeing who's in the neighborhood, I think, a lot of times. And so the does hit it, the bucks hit it, they, all the deer seem to migrate towards it. So I've really found those work well, especially when you're talking about trying to get something into archery range. When you're talking about like my one plot that's, up where my big tower blind is, like where we shot Stranger out of, that whole plot is like 5 acres. So it's, I have some standing beans and then, green and whatever. So you want to try to obviously get, the deer in archery range. And if they're coming out, they could eat anywhere out there, then you want to try to put them as close to you as possible. So I like it. It's worked well for me. I don't know if you guys do anything similar to that or have tried it, but it works well.
Well, I rely. Your scale is different than mine, I think.
Yeah.
Harry and I, we hunt the mountains, and I have to rely on finding other trees. I just find trees to either create a scrape or find an
Yep.
existing scrape, and then I set up around that. As opposed to, I like this way. I saw that, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And I was like, is that a 4x4 stuck in the damn ground?
Yeah.
And I like that because you dictate where the scrape is going to be. So
Yeah.
that's a tactic I'm gonna take away there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to scale that down, you could do that on any plot. If you have a half-acre plot and you have a tree that works really good, go out in your plot at 20 yards, 25 yards, and stick you a 4x4. Or, I mean, I've done it with just like another tree. Like, go cut you down a little tree and stick it in there. Just make sure you got branches sticking off at the right height,
Right.
when you trim it up. But I did that this year, and a plot up on the north end of my farm, and I actually had to trim out like a small little oak tree, and I don't like cutting oaks down if I don't have to, but I repurposed it and turned it into this scrape tree, basically. So I did the same thing. I dug the hole and stuck it in there and trimmed off all the other branches and just left a couple that stick out like a scrape would, and they've hit that thing just as hard as the other scrapes. So yeah, it works well. You can do it with about anything, but I think, like I said, I don't know, it's one of those deals where it's like something new to them, or it's something different that's out in the plot. And they want to go check it out and see what's going on. I mean, it's definitely worked well for me.
Yeah, they're curious critters, and it doesn't take long. I mean, it's something like that's obviously not a threat to them.
Right.
I went a lot of years, unfortunately, I kind of kicked myself not really understanding how to and the benefit of using mock scrapes, and it's only something that we've started doing in the past few years, really. And like you say, it's a great way to get inventory. Especially we're the same way. Like, you have to have any minerals or supplemental feed out or up 30 days before the season starts, and so then it's like, well, how are we going to get inventory of the bucks we're after? Well, you either
Right.
find the scrapes, the natural scrapes, or you make the mock scrapes and put them where you want them, and use that for your inventory, and like you say, to close the distance on those archery setups.
Yeah. I think it's a great tool. I mean, I know a lot of people do utilize it, but it definitely works well, from my experience. I try to do it in almost all my plots that have any size to them at all. Or ones that I have setups that are in a blind or something like that, or even a tree stand, on one edge of it where, you need them to come down the plot a ways or something. It's a great tool for doing that.
Something else that's a great tool that you see in the beginning of that video, I think, is your access in and out to that stand. Y'all are so well protected. Is that your, obviously, hopefully your seed blend, the supporting wall?
Yeah, so honestly, that's like in that particular instance behind my tower blind this year, I actually put my just my upland blend in there.
Okay.
So it's just Milo, sunflowers, and some millet or whatever. But the Milo gets still like 4 foot tall. I didn't need. Um, I planted like an acre of it behind that blind because it blocks the whole hilltop. It's kind of hard to describe, but that blind is up on the tallest point of the hill, and I access it from um, the hill on the backside of the blind, and it's pretty steep. If you watch my other videos, in fact, I just posted one a couple weeks ago, but a buddy and I were videoing walking up the hill, and it's a killer. I park at the bottom of the hill below the pond. There's another pond in this pasture, and I park down there every time so that nothing in the back of my property or the south end of my farm knows like that I'm there. And I walk up this killer hill every time to get to my blind. And so that Milo and the sunflowers and stuff is still like 4 foot tall in it, just with the roll of the hill. Nothing that's to the south of me has any idea that I crawl up in that blind. So it works fantastic. The supporting wall is great for that too. I just in that circumstance didn't need it to be 10 feet tall, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I do utilize that. One of my other setups, I do have the supporting wall, and it does a similar thing where it blocks access, for me to get into the blind. It's a great, but just depends on kind of the lay of the land and whatever. But yeah, it's great. I can sneak in and out of that blind, literally at about any time. And the deer that are to the south of me have zero idea that I'm in there. So. I have a lot of my buddies now that start making fun of me about the fact that I've hunted blinds almost this whole year. But I'm telling you, I don't know if you utilize blinds at all, but these are just um, I've got two of them now, two blinds that I've built. They're just 6x6, fully enclosed blinds, and I can close the windows up in them and hunt them on winds that aren't maybe the best, and stay sealed up inside the blind, and nothing has a clue that I'm there. I can also obviously keeps you out of the wind, just easier to hunt. I don't know, maybe it's me and getting old, I don't know, but it's just one of those deals where anyway, yeah, it's just one of those deals where I like using the blind to um, hunt. Like a biggest thing I've found is the wind situation where I can hunt that thing on a wrong wind where it's actually blowing the other way. And if you keep it sealed up, um, it's great. They have no clue you're there. I think you'll see other guys doing that too, like the Drury's and some other people are using similar setups. You can put those things in places where, as long as your access is good and you can get in and not blow everything out, using a blind to keep sealed up in it is a great way to do it. Then I only open the window when it's time to make a shot.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
it's
they're
worked
great for
well for me.
kids too.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great for kids. It works well for, obviously, Henry still at 9 years old does not sit super still. So, he's in there moving around and whatever, or we're eating some snacks or whatever it might be. If you got a longer hunt, it's great for that kind of thing. So yeah, it's obviously it's fantastic for that. So yeah, I utilize them quite a bit. Probably more and more as I continue to do things, especially in my situation where I'm having to try to pull deer to where I'm at instead of me going to where the deer are at. Just works. It works really well. I do dearly love the tree stand hunt just for visibility purposes, and I just love it. But the blinds have definitely been a game changer when it comes to some of those things, and like you just said, getting youth involved and whatever. And then again with the filming side of things, it really helps too. It allows you a lot more movement around in the blind and things like that, where you don't have that so much in a tree.
Yeah, for sure. Thinking ahead to this spring, Jeff, what should hunters be thinking about as we're wrapping up? Well, we're halfway through. Halfway through? Yeah, about halfway through December. What do we need to start thinking about moving forward, to January, February, March
Um,
times from a food plot point of view?
yeah. I mean, it's, obviously right now, the next thing that will really get started is, like I said, the frost seeding of clover. But thinking forward to like even next year at this point, if you're looking at planting like a fall plot that's gonna, have food and sustain food on your property into this time of the season, you want to look at some of the blends like Blueprint, or even Ten Ring, or Punch List, or whatever, that's going to have stuff in there that'll sustain food this late into the season. That'll put on the tonnage, have the bulbs that they'll come back and eat at this point in the season. Because your number one goal, obviously, as a hunter would be to, and just as an outdoorsman, would be to try to hold the deer on your property as many months out of the year as you can hold them. I mean, that's how you're going to have the best luck, and that's how you're going to keep your herd healthy. That's how all those things are going to happen. If you can hold them on your property or in your area, obviously you need cover, and then you have to have food. So at the end of the day, if they have to go off your property or go somewhere else to get food through this time of the season, they're going to end up, especially if you get inclement weather, bad long weather, super cold or snow or whatever you might get, they'll bed closer and closer to food, and eventually they'll not be staying on you, anymore. So your goal would be to try to hold them, on your property. So having the right plots in place, to hold them this time of year is the most important thing. So you're looking at those plots that have the tonnage, and then going forward into the spring, clover in the ground to keep clover going, and then through the summer, most of that would be your clover type plots, or like that upland blend that you could plant a little earlier, or something like that. But if you're utilizing that kind of thing, but if not, really honestly, clover is your best bet to go through the summer months to keep food on the property, so the deer continue to use it, and then rotate back into a fall blend. But your goal would be to try to continue with some sort of food. I don't like keeping your plots completely, like if you just put in a fall plot, let's say you do Blueprint, I don't like just leaving nothing in the plot for the whole duration of time and waiting till you replant next year. One, you're going to fight weeds unless you go in there and spray it off all summer long, or whatever. But honestly, I think your best bet is to try to do some sort of crop rotation. It's better for your soil, it's better to keep weeds down, that sort of thing. So rotating between clover and your fall plot is a great way to do it. So if you put something in the ground like Punch List that's got clover in it, you'll already have a jump start going to spring. The clover will come up. You could frost seed some more clover into it, if you want to keep some clover going. And then again, if you choose to go back in the fall and put a fall blend in, then you either till your clover under, or you spray it off and kill it and plant in your fall blend. So in my opinion, that's a great way to do it. It's great for your soil. That way the clover is going to generate nitrogen in your soil, and then you'll pick it back up with your Blueprint or something like that. So just a great way to do it, and again, helps hold deer on your property year round.
Yeah, and in the southeast here, when do you think would be the right time to start thinking about putting that clover down?
I mean, you could do it in the southeast probably February. I don't know when you start getting to the point of I don't know how late do you have frost in your
Yeah,
area?
I'll plant my garden probably the second week of, well, sometimes the first week of April.
Okay.
Although I've been bitten by that before,
Right.
but
Yes.
first week of April
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. So frost seeding, I would probably start then in late February to March, or whatever. So you're going to have still hopefully quite a few frosts, to to suck that seed down into the ground. So you want the soil to freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw to bring that seed into the ground, and hopefully some moisture with it, and then it'll really start taking off once your temperatures get up over that kind of that 50-degree range. When you start having some clover that'll start wanting to take off, once your soil temps get up to kind of that 50-degree range is when you'll really start noticing that stuff start jumping up.
That was my own personal selfish question.
Yep.
Just for me.
No, that's great.
Well, we should do it, Perry, honestly.
Oh yeah. No, that was, I mean, it's we've talked a little bit about frost seeding in the past. It's a great tool. I think it's a tool that's underutilized by a lot of, property owners and property managers. That was literally the extent of the food plotting that I did this past season. Which Evan and I did some frost seeding of some clover in the winter time last year, and then we had some logging activities, some timber activities on the family farm this year, and it just really kind of got in the way of food plotting. But anyway, it's a fantastic tool, and like you say, to have that rotational aspect of something going on year round, that's keeping the deer there, and with something like the legume of clover that's fixing that nitrogen, it absolutely will benefit your soil health.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, it's a great way to do it. Also kind of, once the clover gets established, it'll help with weed control. You won't have to fight as many weeds off. It'll choke them out. At some point you can keep it in check with some mowing if need be and stuff like that too. That way, again, it's just less for you to spend on chemicals and I mean, there's so many benefits there that I know a lot of guys will do it that way. I think it's a great way to do it, to rotate. That's what I've been personally doing myself now, and definitely found it a lot easier than having to go back. If you just let a field go stagnant, or whatever, you got to go back there and mow down 4-foot tall weeds and kill everything off again, and then work that into the soil, or try to, depending on what you or how you work your plots. If you're doing more of the poor man style or whatever, then you have all that weed, all the weeds to deal with, which is not what you want to deal with, which the clover will help you with, keeping that in check.
That's what I do. It's a disaster every year, so maybe I should start implementing some clover in the spring.
Yes. My quick start clover blend would be, my suggestion for that. It's fast growing. It's got 3 different varieties of clover in it. It's got a medium red and a ladino and a white clover in it, and it's just a great, and it's a everlasting, I guess, too, is in there, and that's great for any more shade. If you have shady spots, like you're talking about some stuff in the timber or something like that, that everlasting clover is great for those low areas or shady spots and stuff like that. So with that in there, that's just a great one to rotate. And it, the quick germinating and quick growing is what you're looking for if you're going to do it in a rotational basis. The Foundations Trio blend that I have is all whites, and 2 of them are what I would call slow starters. So if you're looking to, continue a clover plot and do a solid clover plot going forward, that's probably the blend that you want to do. But if you're doing a rotational one, you want something that jumps out of the ground and establishes quick. So that way, again, you help with the weed situation and all of that. So that's kind of the best way to do it. I'll tell guys a lot of times that, start with the quick start, and then if you want to keep it going as clover, top seed it with the trio. And if you're going to rotate it in, then you work the trio or the quick start in, and then put in your fall blend over top of it.
Well, Perry and I will definitely be reaching out again.
Oh yeah.
I'll be ready.
Beginning 2024 to talk some more details, but we're rolling up on an hour here. Anything coming down the pipe? Anything new over at Buck Fever for 2020?
So I'm working on a couple new mixes. I've been experimenting with a couple of things. I don't know One of them may come later this summer. I'm working on a variety or a blend that has some different varieties of peas in it and some oats that are kind of a more cold tolerant oat for places like the Midwest, or places like even in your area probably where you still the weather gets chilly. The oats that'll last late and stay green later into the season. I have it, and I have a few of my staffers that have it in the ground this year, and it's been doing really well. So we're going to see how we get with that. And I do have another blend that's hopefully, I don't know if it'll come out this year or not. I need one more year on it, I think, before I really put it out there. But I have another blend that I'm going to be calling the Masters Mix. That is a perennial blend that has a bunch of different stuff in it, some different clovers, some chicory, and a couple other forbs in it. And I think it's going to be a great mix this year. Was a tough one because a lot of people experience drought, so it's hard to test some things when you're talking about the drought and stuff like that. And just it's doing well. It's survived the drought, but I want to continue to experiment with it a little bit more before I start putting it out there for people to buy. But it's fun to test these kind of things. I'm always open for suggestions from people in different areas to hear what people like to use in different areas, because it's across the country we have a lot of variance in our weather conditions, soil types, so on. But I try to cater to all areas and not just the Midwest. So we do have other people with those mixes in the ground in different areas too, to make sure that they're going to be working everywhere, so I can confidently put it in your hands when it gets to that point. So it's fun to mess around with those kind of things and see not only how stuff grows, but how the wildlife reacts to it. So yes, we'll keep everybody posted. We're not far away from trade show season. I will tell everybody, if you have any listeners on here that are going to be in or that are from Nebraska area, we have a show coming up in January, the third weekend in January, I believe it is, in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's their basically like their Deer Classic or whatever. It's their big game expo. So I will be at that show with a booth.
Nice.
So anybody looking to come out and visit, that'd be great. So yeah, we're getting to that time of the year too, where the trade shows start picking up.
Yeah, we're actually wading into it kind of whole hog for the first time this year too. Are you going to be at the Iowa Deer Classic by any chance?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we will meet up with you. We're going to find you.
Oh,
That would be great. Yes, yes. I have a booth there every year, so that's it's basically my hometown crowd there. So
cool. You can show us the ropes.
Yep, that'd be great. Honestly, cool. Yeah, it'd be great to be able to shake your hand and meet up face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll tag the YouTube channel Wildest Dreams TV in the show notes for sure, and I'll drop the link to that.
That'd be awesome. I love it. We love feedback from people. We have a Facebook page on Wildest Dreams TV as well, and you can also follow along on the Buck Fever Seed Company Facebook or website or any of those places. But yeah, the Wildest Dreams TV. We've been putting pretty much weekly blogs for the whole season along. So, for guys that are looking for a watch, you can basically go back to all the way from when we started doing the prep work this summer on the property all the way till where we sit right now, and we'll continue through the end of the season. So it's a kind of a cool way to follow along a story with myself, and my good friend Derek Weber is in it with me, and he is doing similar stuff on his farm. So it's a great little follow, and some good content, we think, for everybody to watch. So
yeah, I agree. I like that format a lot. They've been fun to watch. Perry, you got any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, man. Just Really appreciate your time as always, Jeff. It sounds like there's some exciting things in the works over there at Buck Fever, and it'd be awesome to meet up with you at some of these trade shows. And you got my wheels spinning as usual on some things that we can do on our little piece of dirt that we hunt up there. I've got all sorts of grandiose plans as always for the upcoming year, and as Carter said, we'll definitely be reaching out to pick your brain some more and see what we can do. So like I said, we didn't do a whole lot in terms of food plots this year, and it kind of bummed me out, to be honest. So I'm I'm gonna be ready to jump in head first in 2024. So
Perfect. Yeah. Yep. Reach out anytime. We'll put a plan together.
sounds good, man.
Awesome. I appreciate you jumping on, Jeff, and taking the time, man. Always a pleasure. Listeners, as always, we appreciate the hell out of you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.